Hey, it's Daniel and Mariah, and today we're going to talk about 3 things you must do if you're engaged and in a long-distance relationship.
So Mariah and I, when we were dating all the way up until engagement and marriage, our wedding, we were long distance. Mm-hmm. And what we had to really wrestle with is like, what does it look like to shift from dating to engagement in preparation for marriage with intentionality? So these 3 things really helped us kind of walk towards marriage with like an intentional focus towards the end goal.
And I felt like our transition from engagement and long distance to living together and being married was very smooth.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't jarring, it wasn't a surprise, it was just smooth and awesome.
I think sometimes couples, when they do a bulk of their relationship almost like at a distance and then they go to get married, they don't realize how jarring that transition can be. Yeah. And we really do believe that these 3 things will help couples who are long distance transition well into the engagement phase onto marriage.
Yes.
So what's the first one?
The first one is shared experiences.
Yeah.
So I think when you're engaged, and especially if you're engaged and you're long distance, every time you see each other, it's going to be so tempting to just plan the wedding the whole time you're together.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that like time after time of seeing each other, it's going to start to like bog you down and weigh you down. You still need like shared experiences and fun things you're doing together to like create those memories together and continue building your relationship.
I think for the planners out there, the temptation is to like optimize every spare window of time when you're together to plan the wedding. And I think we would lean that way. But I think there's like this neat encouragement in there for people who are maybe natural procrastinators, where they say like, oh, let's just chill. I think it's also a challenge to procrastinators because it's like, no, like plan a thing that's outside of wedding planning, that's outside of a house, that's not just lounging and watching a movie. It doesn't have to cost a lot. Could be a walk, could be a bowling night.
A bowling night,
for example.
Those are getting expensive these days.
And
it could be even a night at home where you're like making homemade pizzas or doing something like different.
People are really into cold plunges these days. Maybe that's an idea for couples. But shared experiences outside of planning weddings is really important.
Yeah.
The second thing is shared habits.
Yes.
So because we are Christian, like we liked praying together in preparation for marriage. We read some books. We did counseling individually, and together. I think it's so important for people who are pursuing marriage together because it's like this, it's such a team effort, like a marriage is. It's so important to do things that are shared and habitual and regular together before you get married.
Yeah, and a key thing that we really were intentional about doing when we were engaged is regular life things together. Yeah. So we weren't just I know first we said shared experiences, and that's like the fun dates, the out of the ordinary stuff. But it's also important to go grocery shopping together. Yeah. Go to the gym together.
Do the boring stuff that just come with regular life.
Clean the house together because you're going to be doing that together all the time, week in and week out. And so you might as well get used to it and see how each other works in those situations.
Yeah. No, that's good. And what's the third one?
The third one is intentional conversations, regular intentional conversations.
And what do you mean by intentional? Because there's conversations and then it seems like there's something else we're trying to get to the bottom of when we say intentional. What does that mean?
So I think you can be intentional in a few different ways. The reason why I bring it up is because when you're engaged and you're long distance and say you only get to talk one time a day or whatever, it can be very tempting to be like, we have this whole list that we need to do for our wedding, and every conversation we're just hitting that list. And there's a way to be intentional about that and be like, okay, on Thursday night we're gonna talk through our caterers and our guest list. And that's a way to be intentional and put it in a box so you know that's coming Thursday night. But also it's good to be intentional in the kinds of things you talk about when you're engaged. So you're not always talking about a to-do list. You're not always talking about the impending day of your wedding. But maybe you're talking about what does it look like when we're
Yeah.
married, when
Yeah,
we're living
what are you most
together?
excited for? Yeah, like,
do you have any fears
Yeah.
for when we all of a sudden go from distance to living together?
and not every conversation needs to be an intentional conversation, but
Yeah.
it is good to make sure to budget in your broader, like, I guess, scope of time together.
Yeah.
Times where it's not just like hanging out on FaceTime or Zoom or whatever platform you use, but it's actually like, we know on Wednesday we're talking about future family.
Yeah.
We know on like 2 Thursdays from now we're talking about budgeting.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's so important for people to plan those things out, or else they don't happen, and then you get people who find themselves like weeks before their wedding day and they haven't talked about how many kids they want. It's like,
what?
whoa, that should have happened.
Yeah,
So make
yeah.
sure to plan that time. And oftentimes when you're doing long distance, it's almost like you just miss each other.
Yeah.
So you can sit on a call for like hours on end just talking about how much you miss each other, or just
Yeah.
updating each other on
Yeah.
life things. And those things aren't bad. I think that's natural to like romance and relationship.
Yeah.
But it is important to like cover a few significant and important conversations as you gear up for marriage.
Yeah. So if you're in a long distance relationship and you're engaged or you're about to be, we feel for you.
Yeah.
That's a hard
We
time.
know the grind.
but
Long
it's-
distance and engaged is not fun.
But it's exciting, and know that when you do get married and start to live together, it is awesome, and it doesn't get old, and it's just such a sweet thing.
Yeah.
So we're excited for you, and we hope those tips help you.
If you've been in a long distance relationship or you're in one and you have some tips that we didn't mention, make sure to drop them in the comments below.
Awesome. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you